Good evening, everyone. It's me, Dr. Plague. We talk a lot about horror on this channel, but the real horror out there is how easy it is for your data to fall in the hands of disreputable people. That's why today's video is sponsored by Aura. While you're enjoying today's spooky video, data brokers, those things that go bump on the web, could already be selling your information to scanners, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, your health records, your relatives, they could all be out there. That's why I've been using Aura. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests, just for me. It was simple to use and very intuitive, and I had barely gotten out of the setup process, and it was already blocking over 20 data broker requests on my behalf. Aura protects your passwords, your banking information, everything you need for day-to-day online life. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it also protects me from hackers who could use my information to help them access my social media accounts, bank accounts, other sensitive information. Things like a certain YouTube channel that you all enjoy listening to so much. Aura also does much more to protect me and my family from online threats, the kind you can't see. It comes with other features like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft insurance, and more, without having to download several different apps. It really is just that easy to set up, and best of all, I get everything at one affordable price. I hear you saying, but Dr. Plague, I have one or two of these tools already. But, dear readers, not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door wide open. Readers of my fine tales can tell you why that never ends well. Aura is always on, doing the hard work of keeping me safe so I can focus on other tasks like finishing my latest book or uploading my most recent video. I value my privacy, and I know you value yours. You can go to Aura.com, that's AURA.com, to start your 2-week free trial. You can also check out the link below and start your free trial with Aura. So why not give Aura a try and protect yourself from the real monsters out there? This is a warning. Don't take things that aren't yours. My mistake as a teenager ruined my life. At the age of 16, I moved into a new house with my family, since my father was offered a new job that paid him much more than what we'd been making before. We'd been in poverty for years, so when the pipeline company called him, he instantly accepted. 2 weeks later, we moved from my hometown in Georgia. I'll admit, it was really difficult saying goodbye to my friends. I basically grew up with these guys since birth. My mom assured me that it was better this way, so I finally loaded my belongings into the moving truck. Our new home was about 2 hours away from our original location, so this meant I'd have to get used to a new remote place. I teared up as I saw the town's greeting sign, "Welcome to Clamville, where memories are made." How ironic. I never knew this place would be my first week in hell. I knew then I'd miss my original home every day. The hometown was all I'd ever known. All I could see was nothing but dirt roads and old homes. Felt like a ghost town. But hey, what did I know? Maybe I'd love the place. My poor, naive self. The house we moved into wasn't much to look at. The outside was painted crimson with a black roof and a black door to match. The inside had 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and everything a house would normally have. A few days after living there, I realized we had an attic because of a chain hanging from the washroom. Me, being excited, I immediately told my mom. I was always curious in my youth. She tilted her head in confusion and said the owner never mentioned it. My father always had a ladder because of his previous job with the logging company. So we searched the truck and found it in the back. My dad had taken the pipeline work vehicle that day, so it was never unusual for his beat-up red truck to be in the driveway. My mom set up the ladder, began to walk on it, but then stopped halfway from pulling the chain. Ma, what are you doing? Pull it down so we can see what's up there. I don't feel like this is safe. The previous homeowner obviously didn't tell us for a reason. Maybe it has some safety hazards. He might have left old things up there, like antiques or something. She inhaled deeply and let out a long sigh. Fine, but if you get hurt, you'll never be allowed up there again. I mean it, she said sternly as she walked back from the ladder. In my excitement, I rushed and pulled the rusty chain so that the entrance was fully exposed. A cloud of faintly gray dust hit me in the face and I coughed. My mother complained about the mess, but that was the least of my worries. I climbed myself the rest of the way in, the atmosphere feeling eerie. See anything? My mother hollowed. Ma, I haven't even turned on the light yet, I said. I felt around the attic and flicked a light switch. The attic lighting up. The floral wallpaper in the room was peeling off and the floor was in need of sweeping. Other than that, it seemed in fairly good condition. In my surprise, much less was there, besides a few boxes and porcelain plates, teacups, and occasionally old frilly dresses in piles on the floor. Everything was caked in dust. From the look of it, no one had been up here in years. My mother yelled again, and it caused me to jump. Everything okay? She said. Yeah, Ma, I promise. There isn't much up here, I yelled back, with a slight tone of annoyance. She always worried way too much. I paced up and down the floor to examine my findings, and that's when I saw it in the corner. A beautiful antique mirror with bright gold edges. It resembled a magic mirror from one of those cheesy Disney movies I'd loved as a little girl. I grabbed it immediately and just couldn't stop myself. It wasn't mine, but I needed it. Its looks lured me in. I admired the gold and beautiful shape. I wanted it. The owner left it, so it was technically mine, right? It was the size of my torso, but it was pretty easy to carry. I grabbed the mirror, turned off the light, and with caution, I headed back down the ladder while clinging to it. Mother met me at the last step. What's that? It's an old mirror. It's beautiful. I really want to put it in my new room, I said with joy. She examined it. Needs some cleaning, but sure, I guess so. Just remember, we don't know whose it is, she said. Soon as my mother finished her sentence, I squealed with excitement, even in my teen years. The littlest things brought me happiness, as if I was 4 again. I told you there was at least something up there, Ma. I ran off to find some Windex to clean it up. As I was grabbing the cleaner from under the sink, I felt an extremely cold presence behind me. I wrote it off as the house was old and probably needed some insulation work done. I headed to the kitchen table and began scrubbing the glass. The smudges weren't coming up. I began to get aggravated and used different cleaning chemicals, dishwashing soap, Windex, vinegar, Ajax, even baby wipes. It refused to come up from the glass, and my excitement faded slightly. I went to my mother's bedroom to go find her and ask her for more solutions. Ma, these fingerprints won't come up, I said, defeated. Well, it is really old, honey. Could be stained from the inside out, she explained, looking up from her book. She was always seen with some kind of novel in her hand. I sighed. Well, should I just hang it up as is? I don't see why not. It's clean now. All right, then. I closed the door a little. I felt my gut twist as I turned the knob to my own room. Little did I know then it was my subconscious warning me of what was to come. I headed to my room and decided to hang it up over my bed. I sat on the end of my mattress and admired it once more. Even though it had a few smudges, it was still gleaming and shiny. I loved it. I even looked at it as I fell asleep that night. To my dismay, I had my first nightmare of a cryptid crawling out of the wall and grabbing my throat. The hands burned as soon as they touched my skin. I couldn't scream. I was paralyzed. The figure was cloudy gray and had such dark eyes. As its eyes met mine, I finally woke up in a panic. The smell of the thing is forever burned into my nose. I was covered in sweat and my hair was matted against my face. I went to the bathroom and immediately took a hot shower. I always hated how sweat felt. I didn't go back to bed that night. I stayed up and drew in my sketchbook the whole time. I didn't want to ever have that nightmare again. I thought it would pass. I even prayed it would. I checked my dimly lit computer screen and saw it was 8 a.m. I got up and made myself some fried eggs. Mom woke up from the smell and sleepily walked into the kitchen. "You're up early," she yawned. "Yeah, I was hungry." I decided not to tell her about the nightmare. Knowing her, she'd blame it on the YouTube videos I watch. The eggs were done, and I grabbed 2 plates. "Is Dad already gone? I didn't hear him leave." "Yeah, you know how his job is." "I miss him." "I know. I do too." We ate at the kitchen table without saying a word to each other. The move was impacting us both. Dad came home at 11 that night, and, as always, he left at 7 in the morning while I was asleep. He had weekends off, but when he had spare time, he'd usually rest since the job was hard on his back. I knew I'd been enrolled in a new high school in a few months after the summer was over, and I was scared to leave Mom all alone. She didn't do well when she was stir-crazy. The next few days felt like a fever dream. I spent less and less time in my room. As a teenager, that's never a bad thing, but I noticed any time I was in there, I'd catch myself zoning out, looking at the mirror. I kept having the same nightmare. It was repetitive nightly, and it began to drive me crazy. I was desperate enough to begin asking for help on Reddit, Discord, online chat rooms, you name it. They all asked me a reoccurring question: "Do you have any mirrors in your room?" At the time, I thought it was stupid, an irrelevant question. I eventually sent someone a picture of it in private chat, and they told me I needed to burn it, and began rambling about negative attraction. I nervously laughed at the text. Burn a mirror? That sounded ridiculous. I laughed to myself and picked up the gorgeous mirror from my light brown wall. I gazed at it to see if this person was truly crazy, and that's when it hit me. The smudges look like they're on the inside. I was in shock. I had so many questions running through my head. There was no way fingerprints could be inside the mirror, right? I kept reassuring my mind and told myself I was overthinking it. I surely had to be paranoid from the lack of sleep. I went to bed and the dream repeated itself once again. The thing completely devouring me. I woke up. I had enough and cracked. I told my mom everything. She didn't believe a word I said. Though, in her defense, she never was one to believe in negative energy or anything paranormal. Her denying it had anything to do with ghosts or kind of eased my fears. Though the nightmares continued, I was finally able to get more sleep. I became numb to it, and as I knew it would happen again. One night in particular, I awoke from the same dream and my throat was dry, as if it was caked with flour. I brushed my teeth to get the sensation off my tongue and spit out pure black. I opened my mouth wide enough to see every tooth, and that's when I saw it. To my horror, my mouth had a thin layer of dust on the top of my gums. The people warning me were right. It had to be evil. I rinsed out my mouth and cried on the bathroom floor for what felt like hours. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Mom kept denying my claims, and Dad was never home to give me comfort. I picked myself up and decided then and there I had to get rid of the mirror. I was going to smash it into a million pieces. Its gorgeous petite shape was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I sat in the living room, watching old Looney Tunes reruns until I fell asleep. Not long enough to have the dream, of course, because I woke up to the sound of someone coming into the kitchen. It was my dad. I stood up from the couch. "Can I get a hug before you go to work?" "You know I never deny one of my hugs, kiddo, but why don't you sleep on the couch?" he said, as he wrapped me in a bear hug. I smelled the Old Spice on his clothes. I haven't had one of those embraces since we moved. I always adored my dad growing up. I ignored his question about why I was sleeping in the living room. Have a good day at work. I was just tired. I didn't want him to worry or feel like it was his fault. He was trying his best for us. I knew that. Thanks, kid, he said with a smile. He then walked out the front door. I'm glad I finally saw his face. It felt like ages. It was one of those moments I wished he had his old job again. Then I remembered all the times he had no money, no food, no water. It was better this way, I kept telling myself. I finally walked back to my bedroom, and seeing the old mirror flooded me with rage. I grabbed the damn thing off the wall. I walked out into the front yard and smashed it, picked it up and smashed it again, throwing it onto the gravel. I hated it. I hated how it looked, the pain it caused me, the nightmares it brought. I beat it until it was just gold lining. I left it on the dirty ground. I just stared at it. I knew I'd have a lot of explaining to do once Mom found out. In that split moment, I felt a weight being lifted off my shoulders. It was over. I could be joyous again and enjoy my new home with my mom. With relief, I walked back into the living room. Examining my hands, I found that there was a glass shard, so I brought myself to the sink and washed my hands. I took a deep breath and stepped back into the bedroom, my one and only sanctuary. But there it was again, the mirror, back in its original position on the wall. I couldn't believe it. I ran back outside and saw that even the shards of glass from the grass were gone. Since that day, it's followed me everywhere, along with the nightmares. Every house I've moved to since adulthood, it's been there, despite me purposefully leaving it. I regret finding it so beautiful and wanting it to be mine. I just can't escape it. Growing up since that, my mother never believed me when I'd cry to her about the beautiful thing. It was hard making friends in my new town because I was scared of having anyone over to the house. I feared the mirror would follow them too. I stayed to myself and would look for any reason to stay away from home. I believe this curse, this dreaded curse, may follow me past death. The worst part of this existence is the feeling of pure insanity. Everyone telling me I'm crazy. I live every day wondering if I've lost my mind. It tortures me mentally, and I feel so alone. All I have now is my reflection in that mirror. So take my warning and remember, curiosity killed the cat. You're still here. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's spooky tale. If you'd like a little bit more spooky in your life, why not click on one of the videos that appears at the end of our story? Or maybe head on over to one of our playlists where you can get your fill of spooky content. If you like your spooky a little more tactile, I've got a new book that's come out. If you'd like your own copy, there's a link below in the description where you can get your own copy of my spooky book. If you like what you see here on the channel and think you might like to support in a more monetized way, then why not come over to Patreon or become a member on YouTube? Speaking of, let's go ahead and thank our members now. Thanks to Civ Garstad, Unicorn Hollow, and Army Dude for being our Spooky Ghost contributors. Thanks to Janet, Lee Kendall, Saikat, Ronda J, Sue Casper, and Valinator for being our Spooky Skeleton contributors. And thanks to Oh Snap, Hi Stacy, Winter, Xaronan, Stephanie Carrington, Tyler Parker, Cinnamon Fox, Grim Reaper, TomBoiTopUwU, and Queen Sheebah for being our Ghostly Reader tier contributors. And a big thanks to Scott Donahue for being our Ghostly Writer tier contributor. Thanks, everyone. We just couldn't do the show without you. If you'd like to support the channel, then come on down to Patreon or become a member on YouTube. Spooky Skeleton tier contributors, that's our $5 tier, get their spooky 12 hours early at 8:30 a.m. as opposed to 8:30 p.m. My time, of course. And while Ghostly Reading is only a tier that's available on Patreon, you get a signed copy of my book anytime I write one on your doorstep in hopefully a timely manner. If you'd like a book, we have many on Amazon. I've got links below if you'd like to follow those. Should get you to my page so you can buy any one of my 8 books I believe we're up to now. I'm sure they'd look really nice on your shelf, and I'll sign them for you if you can find me out in the wild. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.